Do you ever wake up and still feel exhausted no matter how much sleep you get? Well, you're not alone. Almost every entrepreneur on the planet struggles with this, and when I first started building my business online, it didn't matter how much sleep I got, I was always exhausted. At least that was until I built a system that allows me to see actual measurable improvements in how much energy I have each day. And in this video, I'll share that exact system with you so that you can fix your sleep, improve your energy, boost your focus and productivity, and in turn get better results in your business. And this system isn't just theory, it's so effective that it's become a cornerstone principle we use with our clients at self-mastery.co to help them transform their sleep so that they can wake up and attack each day full of energy and get better results in business. But it's going to be absolutely useless if you don't understand how sleep systematically ripples into your business. So if you're waking up and feeling low energy and you struggle to focus or you procrastinate, this is going to change all of that and give you a repeatable system you can use every single day for maximum energy. So think of sleep like your battery charger. When you wake up after a good night's sleep, your battery is fully charged. You then use it throughout the day, and by the end of the day, it's empty. Now, that night, if you sleep like crap, your battery doesn't fully charge and you wake up with low energy and a ton of brain fog, which is exactly what you don't want when you're trying to run a business. Essentially, if you look at it through a system or chain reaction, if you get low quality sleep, you'll have low energy and a lot of brain fog, which means you'll have low focus and willpower, which means you'll procrastinate, have low productivity and struggle to enter flow, which means you do low quality work, and that means your business doesn't grow. And if we work backwards from this, if you want your business to grow, which, I imagine you do, you'd be a pretty weird entrepreneur if you didn't, well then you need high quality and potentially high quantity of work, which means you need high productivity and you need to be able to not procrastinate. You need to be able to enter focus and deep flow and have a lot of willpower. And that means you need to have high clarity in terms of your mental state and have no brain fog, and you need high energy. And can you guess what is the foundation of all of this? Well, it is none other than, drumroll please, high quality sleep. Who would have known? So of course this creates the question of how do we get high quality sleep? Well, it's not just about hitting the pillow for a certain number of hours. To get high quality sleep, you have to think about two things, okay? One, what high quality means, and two, the components that create it, which there are three. If you want high quality sleep, you need an optimal duration or length. You need optimal depth or quality, and you need continuity or unbroken sleep. So if you take a battery, the first component that dictates how much energy a battery can have is the size of the battery. Quite simply, the bigger the battery, the more energy you can store, which in terms of sleep is the length. The longer you sleep, the more energy you can potentially have. You then have the mass of active material contained in the battery. The more material and the better the material, the more energy that material can hold, and in sleep terms, this is depth. The more deep you sleep and the longer you have deep sleep, the more energy you will have. Finally, you then have continuity of charging. So if you're charging the battery, but every so often you take it off charge, you will limit the amount of energy that battery has. Now in sleep terms, this is waking up during the night, continuity of sleep. And with knowing this, you can really dial in your sleep pretty damn easily because you now have three factors to play with and improve. And you have to improve all three areas because, imagine a giant battery, like ridiculously huge, comically big, but it's got the same amount of active material as a AAA battery. What on earth is the point in having a battery that big? Size doesn't matter unless the quality is there to back it up. This is something I see so many entrepreneurs mess up when we work with them at self-mastery.co. They just focus on one factor, normally length, whilst neglecting the others, which is exactly like trying to build a successful business by focusing solely on working long hours without regard for the quality of your work or the efficiency of your processes or what actual tasks that you're working on. If you sleep 9 hours a night, but your sleep quality is low, or you wake up every hour, you're still going to have low energy despite getting a long night's sleep. Or if you have the best quality sleep in the world and you never wake up, but you only sleep 5 hours, guess what? You might feel okay for a bit, you might feel like you have a ton of energy in the morning, but you will crash before the day is over. Most people have never considered these 3 factors that determine high quality sleep. And you know, it's not their fault, it's not your fault. Nobody ever talks about them, but I do, because I want you to get so much value out of this video. You decide to click the link in the description below to work with me to help optimize your performance and take you and your business to the next level. And so if you want to maximize and optimize your sleep, you need to dial in all 3 areas. You need the right length, the right depth, and continuity of sleep. This is where the system comes in. Now that we've defined and understand what high quality sleep looks like, we can build a system around it so that you can get obvious, noticeable improvements in your sleep. And instead of making you create your own and figure things out, I'm just going to give you the base template system that we use at selfmastery.co, which produces noticeable instant improvement in sleep quality and energy levels. And look, optimizing your sleep isn't just about feeling better, although obviously that's a fantastic benefit. It's about giving yourself a competitive edge in the business world. When you're operating at peak mental and physical capacity, there is no limit to what you can achieve. And with that, the first part of this system covers length, and no longer isn't always better. I did it again, didn't I? So to figure out the ideal length of sleep, you have to understand that sleep is split up into cycles that last roughly 90 minutes. Now, according to science, a good night's sleep has 5 of these cycles, which works out at roughly 7.5 hours of sleep. And so the ideal length of sleep is either 7.5 or 9 hours. And with that, the idea here is to reverse engineer the process. So if we look at this from a systems point of view, where the output is, say, your ideal wake time, that's your output. And let's say you want to wake up at, 6 a.m. If we reverse engineer this through a system, obviously the process is, sleep. Well, the input is going to be the time you go to sleep. And let's say you want high quality sleep, so you want at least 7.5 hours of sleep. You take your ideal wake time, which is 6 a.m. You subtract 7.5 hours, and therefore you're going to get the time you have to go to sleep is going to be 10:30 p.m. Pretty simple. Well, this is actually where most people mess up. Most people see this, the time they need to go to sleep, for example, 10:30, and say, okay, well, I'll just go to bed at 10:30 p.m. But what they don't realize is that it takes the average person 10 to 15 minutes to actually fall asleep. And for some people, it takes 30 minutes, maybe even 45, or maybe even 1 hour to get to sleep. But if it only takes you 10, 15 minutes to fall asleep, you might be thinking, what's the big deal if I only get 7 hours and 15 minutes of sleep rather than 7.5 hours of sleep? Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. Well, it's actually a much bigger deal than you think. At least if you're trying to optimize your sleep so that you can grow your business and attack your work with energy. You see, if you wake up in the middle of one of these 90-minute sleep cycles, you wake up groggy and tired and full of brain fog, simply because you're in the middle of one of these sleep cycles. But if you wake up at the end of a sleep cycle, you wake up wide awake. You wake up full of energy. And so if you want to optimize your sleep, you need to be in bed at least 30 minutes before you have to be asleep. So if you have to be asleep by 10:30 to get 7.5 hours of sleep to wake up at 6 a.m., you need to be in bed at 10 p.m. simply so that you can give yourself time to get to sleep, so that you can get at least 7.5 hours. Now, if it takes you longer to get to sleep, if you know it takes you 45 minutes to get to sleep, go to bed 45 minutes before or 1 hour before you need to be asleep. There is a big difference between the time you have to go to bed and the time you have to go to sleep. That is how you optimize sleep length. Pretty simple, okay? Figure out your ideal wake time, subtract 7.5 hours or however much sleep you want to get, subtract another 30 minutes to give yourself time to get into bed and get to sleep, and then go to bed at that time, if not slightly earlier, depending on how long it takes you to get to sleep. Again, you want to wake up at the end of the 90-minute cycles. So if you want more than 7.5 hours of sleep, if you're still tired after doing everything in this video, you should aim for 9 hours of sleep, which means subtract 9.5 hours from your ideal wake time and go to bed then. By doing this, you are optimizing the size of your battery and therefore the potential energy that you can have. But to maximize that potential that you get from the length of your sleep, you need to consider depth. This can get slightly complicated, but I will keep it simple, so don't worry. When you think about sleep, there are two main chemicals that you need to consider. The first is adenosine. This builds up throughout the day, and as it builds up, you get more and more tired to the point where you want to go to sleep. The second is melatonin. This is a hormone that binds to receptors in your brain to increase adenosine, reduce nerve activity, reduce body temperature, and essentially put you to sleep. With knowing this, you can figure out that to get high quality sleep, we want to have as much adenosine and as much melatonin as possible at our ideal sleep times, and so that's what this part of the system does. So imagine a day where you do absolutely nothing. I mean nothing. Nothing physically challenging, nothing mentally challenging, you're a lazy f*** and just watch Netflix all day or scroll TikTok, okay? Well, you won't be that tired by the end of the day and you'll find it harder to go to sleep, right? We've all been there. Now, imagine a day where you are super productive. You do a lot of important work in your business, you hit the gym, train hard, and you're doing stuff all day. Well, by the end of that day, you're exhausted. You find it easy to go to sleep. It's all you want. You can't wait to put your head down on that sweet cold pillow, right? You see, with adenosine naturally builds up throughout the day as a result of brain activity. It's not exactly linear, but essentially, the more brain activity there is as you go throughout the day, the more adenosine builds up. And so you find it easier to go to sleep on days where you do a ton, where you're super productive, where you hit the gym, where you do a load of deep work throughout the day, because the more brain activity there is from you doing more, the more adenosine there is in your system. So one of the ways we want to optimize adenosine levels to improve sleep quality is you want to do hard things throughout the day. You want to work hard on your business and get quality daily movement. And look, this is simple, okay? Especially, you know, as an entrepreneur, you should already be doing this. You're likely already working on your business and you're working your damn ass off. And if you're not, well, that's a video for another day. I'm not going to go into how to do the work and be productive in this video, but if you want me to make another video on that, let me know in the comments below. But with adenosine, you also want to make sure nothing limits your adenosine, and there's a molecule that everyone consumes that will limit your adenosine and ruin your sleep depth and quality, and that is caffeine. Let me get a bit scientific with you here, okay? Adenosine binds to adenosine receptors in your body and your brain. Caffeine also binds to these adenosine receptors. And so if you consume caffeine, it binds to adenosine receptors, meaning adenosine can't, therefore adenosine doesn't do its job and you don't feel tired. That is essentially one of the ways caffeine works. It blocks adenosine from making you feel tired. But of course, caffeine wears off. It has a half-life. Now, depending on the study that you look at, the half-life will be between 6 and 12 hours. I typically go by the half-life of 10 hours, which, you know what that essentially means is that if you drink 100 milligrams of caffeine in 10 hours time, half of that caffeine will still be in your system. So there will still be 50 milligrams of caffeine in 10 hours after consumption, and then in another 10 hours, half of that, 25 milligrams, will still be in your system. Now, I'm not saying to not drink caffeine. I think it's a fantastic tool if you use it as a tool and not as a crutch for low energy throughout the day. Now, to optimize your sleep, you actually want to optimize adenosine, which means we don't want caffeine in your system at night when you want adenosine to actually be binding to the receptors and making you tired. So my rule of thumb is to cut out caffeine 10 hours before bed. For example, if you want to be in bed by 10 p.m, don't drink any caffeine after 12 p.m. And of course, there's going to be some people worrying about, you know, crashing in the afternoon. Well, if you don't want to get an afternoon crash, optimize your sleep like we're going over in this video. That's the whole purpose of this, so that you are higher energy and you're less likely to crash. But also optimize your nutrition, which isn't for this video, and don't consume caffeine in the first 90 minutes of being awake. So adenosine makes you feel tired, right? Caffeine binds to adenosine receptors to stop adenosine from making you feel tired, right? Well, if you drink caffeine first thing in the morning, the adenosine that's still floating around in your system can't bind to its receptors and disappear, which means after lunch, when your morning caffeine wears off, that adenosine from the night before is still floating around and it will bind to the adenosine receptors that are now freed up after the caffeine's wore off, and it will cause you to feel tired and crash. If you leave your caffeine till about 90 minutes or so after waking, that adenosine should have been used up. Now, in transparency, there is some debate over the exact timings of how long you need to leave your caffeine intake for this to work. I do think it's very individual because the rate at which one person utilizes adenosine and metabolizes it will differ. And so 90 minutes will work for pretty much everyone, but if you can't, leave it 90 minutes for whatever reason. Leave it 60 minutes or 45 minutes or 30 minutes before you take caffeine. Essentially, just make sure that the first thing you do every morning is not drink caffeine. Leave it at least half an hour, if not 1 hour, if not 90 minutes. That is adenosine, okay? But remember, melatonin promotes adenosine levels, and so to optimize adenosine, we also need to optimize melatonin. Melatonin release is fundamentally determined by light, which is rather convenient for sleep. As the sun goes down and the world gets dark, the brain releases melatonin to help you get to sleep. Or at least that is how it's meant to work. But unfortunately for most people, that doesn't actually happen, because there is one thing almost everyone does which absolutely ruins their melatonin levels and in turn their sleep, and that is scrolling your damn phone. So your phone produces a rather bright light, and a lot of that light is blue light, the sort of light that you get during the day. Like if you look up during a clear day, no clouds, what color is the sky? It's fucking blue. The same color that a lot of the light from your phone is, which blue light and bright light, when combined and individually, both suppress melatonin release. Your phone is also obviously incredibly stimulating mentally, and so it keeps your brain active and awake. Luckily now there is a super simple solution to deal with this. 2 hours before you go to bed, turn on the blue light filter on every device you have, on your phone, on your iPads, on your laptops, all of them, okay? You can set this filter on a timer to turn on automatically at a certain time each night and to turn off each morning. And all it does is turn your screen a yellow or orange color to pretty much remove the blue light and limit melatonin suppression. Now, another thing you can do or try is to just buy blue light blocking glasses. These are glasses with like a yellow, orange, red tint that just block out the blue light. However, they look, kind of fucking stupid, so wear them at your own risk. However, unfortunately, even if you do decide to wear those super cool glasses and turn on the blue light filter, it's not enough, okay? Your phones and other screens are still producing a ton of bright light, which keeps you awake no matter the color and stimulation. So again, super simple fix: 1 hour before you go to bed, cut out all bright lights and all overhead lights. Turn off your phone, turn off your laptop, your TV, and turn off the overhead lights, put a lamp on in the corner and just read a damn book, okay? This is literally hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. You're helping optimize your sleep whilst also reading and learning what's not to love. The next thing to consider with melatonin and sleep is that to go to sleep, your body temperature has to drop by about 1 to 3 degrees, which melatonin will help you do, but melatonin release is also stimulated in colder temperatures. So when you're going to sleep, you want to sleep in a cool room temperature of around 17 degrees Celsius. Now, how you achieve this really depends on where you live. You could use an AC, you could use a cooling mattress, or if you live somewhere like me in Northern Ireland, you don't need to do anything because it's pretty damn cool here already. We actually have to heat our rooms up to 17 degrees normally. Now, another thing which is crucial is that you don't eat within 3 hours of going to sleep. So think about what happens biologically when you eat food, when you consume. Digestion is heavy on energy. It takes a ton of blood, and in turn, it means the rest of your body essentially gets less blood. And so if you eat right before bed, your body isn't able to fully recover and properly recover because it's wasting so much blood and energy on digestion. Hence, your sleep depth and quality is limited, and depending on what you're eating, it might actually make it harder to go to sleep, because if you eat, a ton of shitty carbs, you'll get a massive energy and insulin spike, which will obviously make you feel loads of energy. So it might actually make it harder to go to sleep, but it can also disrupt your sleep cycles. So pretty simple here. Don't eat within 3 hours before going to bed. Now, all of this can seem really complicated. It can seem like there's loads to do, but we can actually build a super simple system and evening routine around all of this to optimize your sleep. And here's what it looks like. 10 hours before you go to bed, cut out caffeine. 3 hours before bed, cut out all food. 2 hours before bed, turn on blue light filters or put on blue light glasses. 1 hour before bed, turn off all devices, bright lights and overhead lights. If you want 7.5 hours of sleep, go to bed around 8 hours before you plan to wake up.
So if you do these 5 things, you have got length and depth of sleep absolutely nailed and dialed in. All you need to worry about now is continuity.
The idea here is to sleep in one continuous block without waking up.
So if you remember the battery analogy from earlier, you waking up is like you charging the battery and then just taking it off the charger and then putting it back on charge and then taking it off the charger and then putting it back on charge. And of course, if you do that, you're never going to get a healthy battery and actually fully charge the battery overnight.
Now, here's the good thing, okay? The deeper you sleep, the higher the quality, the less likely you are to wake up during the night. So by doing everything we've been talking about so far, you're going to improve continuity by improving depth of sleep. But there are a few other things that you can do. First, if you do wake up in the middle of the night once, it's fine. I wouldn't worry about it, okay? Waking up once to go to the bathroom is pretty normal, and I wouldn't say there's anything to worry about it. It's no big deal. However, if you want to, you can try to prevent it by not drinking any liquids within 1 hour of going to bed, but that's up to you. I wouldn't really worry too much about waking up once. And if you do wake up, the one thing you need to do is not look at your phone or turn on any big bright lights, okay? You want to keep stimulation and light low so that you don't disrupt your brain, and if you bombard your eyes with light, it's going to send signals to your brain that there's loads of light, therefore your brain thinks it's daytime and time to wake up, okay? We don't want that to happen. And if you turn on a pile of lights or look at your phone, you just get pummeled with stimulation, light and dopamine. It's going to wake you up and you'll struggle to get back to sleep. The best thing to do here is honestly just don't keep your phone in your bedroom and buy a fucking alarm clock for an alarm, okay? Amazon, $20. The second thing you can do is ensure your room temperature is cool. You're much more likely to wake up if your room is too warm because your body temperature drops to go to sleep, but it increases for you to wake up. So in the morning when you're naturally waking up, your body temperature rises. When your body temperature drops and puts you to sleep, if your room is too warm, it will raise your body temperature, therefore waking you up and tricking your body into thinking it's time to wake up, okay? So keep the temperature of your room cool around that 17-degree mark. Now, there's one last thing that is absolutely essential and that will improve every single aspect of your sleep, from sleep consistency to depth to continuity, and in turn change the game for you in terms of energy, productivity and growing your damn business. So imagine you had to wait on a bus every morning, but that bus came at different times every single fucking day. Well, that would quite literally have the potential to ruin your entire day, right? Your schedule would be all messed up. You'd be rushing to get to places, you'd be late and all the rest. Well, that is what an inconsistent sleep schedule is like for your sleep and energy. You see, your sleep is governed by your circadian rhythm. This is essentially an internal clock that tells your body when it's time to go to bed, when it's time to wake up, when it's time to release melatonin and all the rest, okay? And look, it is a rhythm. That means it has to have a consistent beat. But if you have an inconsistent sleep schedule, if you go to bed at different times every night or most nights or regularly, you're not letting your circadian rhythm be in rhythm. You ruin your body's clock, and hence you ruin the production and timing and release of the likes of melatonin needed for sleep and for high quality sleep. Few things will change the game for your sleep as much as having a consistent sleep schedule and allowing your body to get into rhythm and produce everything when it needs to be produced for you to sleep and for you to go through all the necessary sleep cycles properly and effectively. And look, in all honesty, if you cannot have the discipline to go to sleep at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every morning, how on earth can you expect to build a damn business? How? You can't. It is impossible. This is the bare minimum amount of effort, commitment and discipline required, okay? If you can't do this, if you're not willing to do this, then there's no point even trying to build your business. You're not committed enough to make it work, because I can promise you that building your business will be much harder than going to sleep and waking up at the same times consistently. If you can't go to sleep on time or wake up at the same time every single day, you're going to work at different times of the day, have different energy levels each day, and as a result, your business will be up and down and all over the place. So have a consistent sleep schedule, and it doesn't have to be 100% of the time. I'm not saying you can't live your life, because if you have kids, you have to work around their schedules. If you have a wedding to go to or an event or you're traveling, these things will obviously impact your sleep schedule, and that's fine. But go to sleep and wake up at the same times every morning and every night, at least 90, if not at least 95% of the time. Even on the weekends, okay? Especially on the weekends and even on vacations, okay? Because guess what? If you stick to your sleep schedule on the weekends and vacations, you're going to enjoy your weekends and your vacations much more, because you'll actually have higher energy, more focus and more clarity, whether you're working or doing whatever else, okay? Now, once you dial in your sleep, there's one thing you need to do to become a better entrepreneur and actually utilize that extra energy that you have, and you need to watch this video here to find out what it is.